Hi everyone, good evening. I hope you're all doing well. We're very happy to have you all here. I'm Yashika and I'm a part of the business team at Zolve. I also have Kopal here with me.
Hi everyone, this is Kopal. I'm also part of the business team of Zol.
All right, I I hope you're all very excited for this webinar and we assure you that it's going to be extremely informative for you. Please feel free to post more questions in the Q&A chat box. I'm seeing that people are already posting it. We'll make sure that they're addressed at the end of the webinar. We have an entire series of webinars planned and we will keep you posted about it. So make sure that you keep an eye out for it. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker to all of you, Sanjay Kaushik sir. He's a former visa specialist and he has worked at the American Embassy, New Delhi. With around 20 plus years of experience, he's here to give us insights into the entire F1 visa journey. And we're very happy to have you here, sir. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Yashika. And thank you all the participants. I'm sure it's going to be an extremely informative session for all of us. The whole idea is that, to ease out the kind of stress that a lot of students go through about the process, about the documentation, about the I-20, whether we'll get a visa appointment or not, and how to handle the interview. I'm going to cover, all those things during our session here. So let me give you a little brief. Like Yashika said that, yes, I worked with the US Embassy in the visa section of the US Embassy in New Delhi. I started off with the non-immigrant visas, which is all about how to, handle the interviews from tourist visas to student visas to business visas to H1, L1. All of those I've handled it. Then I, became the visa specialist. And then, of course, after becoming the visa specialist, I was handling the entire process of visas. So this session, and of course, after putting in my papers that I started my own company and now working independently with my entire team for almost 22 years. So I've got close to about 37 years of experience just doing US visas. We do all of the visas, but primarily US visas. So let me start with my presentation. And I would request everyone to start noting down their questions, and we'll be more than happy to address them right in the end when we start our Q&A session. So please allow me to share my screen. Okay, so we'll be talking about the student visas today. And so I'll be covering the I-20. What does I-20 mean? And then, what is the website that you have to go and start filling a visa application form, how to create a profile, paying the visa application fees, and then scheduling your appointment, and what is SEVIS. So all those things are very important to understand because it all gets interrelated and interlinked with each other. So most of the time when student gets an I-20, the student believes that the I-20 is coming from the university, which is correct. However, if you look at the top left of your I-20, it says Department of Homeland Security and US Immigration and Citizen Services Enforcement, which means that there are these two departments. They understand, and they of course have a database where they're keeping all those details so that every student who's coming to the US has a very unique number called SEVIS, which is called the Student Exchange Visitor Information System ID. So these are very important documents. So when you get an I-20, make sure that your I-20 has your correct name, your date of birth, and your details are absolutely correct. Like I said, SEVIS is a very important component of the entire process. We'll move forward and I'll keep explaining to you. So once you get the I-20, then you have to start filling a form called DS-160. So the DS stands for Department of State. So now you have Department of Homeland Security, you have the USCIS, where you have received your I-20 from, and then of course, Department of State, which is the US Embassy. So you've got three very important department of the US government working on a particular visa. So once you receive it, you've got to log on to the website called ustraveldocs.com. And on the home page, you'll see a link where it says non-immigrant, because tourist visas, student visas, H1, L1, all of them fall under the non-immigrant visa section. So once you click on that, then you need to fill your visa form and look at this link which says complete your application. Once you click on that, scroll down, you'll see select here to start your online non-immigrant visa application called DS-160. So this DS-160 is standard form for all non-immigrant visas, like a student visa, a tourist visa, a business visa, or an H1. So when you click on that, then you get this screen, which is Department of State. And here you have to, because a lot of students, they call me and say, sir, I cannot find US on this. Now, please understand, over here, you've got to collect, or you've got to select the country of your residence and your state. For example, if I'm in Delhi, I'll choose Delhi. If I'm in Mumbai or in west of India, I'll choose Maharashtra. Similarly, South would choose Chennai and then Hyderabad and Kolkata. So once you choose that, then you go and start filling your application. Now, I also clicked here because when I choose Delhi, this would change to Hindi. So make sure that you change this into a language which is English, because then entire form will come in Hindi otherwise. So once you do that, make sure that you take either a screenshot or note down your application ID number, because this application ID number is the one which will also go on your profile when you create your CGI profile, and also if you have to retrieve your application in the future. So there's a security question. Choose the security question, answer, note them down, because that's going to help you in retrieving your application. So once you complete your DS-160, then you'll have to submit your application. Once you submit your DS-160, before submission, you can make all kinds of changes. You can retrieve, make changes, but finally, when you submit your DS-160, then you cannot make changes. However, when you're going for a visa interview, you have to carry your DS-160 confirmation page, not the entire DS-160. So when you're doing this, make sure that you take a print of this. You can email it to you yourself, and also take the print of your application for future reference. It is very important, because once you complete your DS-160, you sign and submit. It stays in the system for 99 years. So each time when you're applying for a US visa, maybe in the future, when you're applying for your OPT, when you're applying for an H1, the first application will always be considered. So make sure that you keep a copy of that for your reference. Once you have filled your DS-160, we'll discuss about DS-160 in depth as well in maybe a coming webinar, or even this, I'm going to answer your questions. So I understand there are a lot of questions about the DS-160 itself, but we'll like Yashika said, we'll have series of webinars. So I'll tell you what is the DS-160, how to fill about, how to go about that. So now we all understand that we have filled the DS-160. Now we have to schedule an appointment. So there are 2 appointments to be scheduled. One is called the VAC, the VAC, or the fingerprinting, the biometrics. Another one is the counselor appointment. In order to schedule your appointment, you have to go back to the same website, the US Travel Docs, click on the non-immigrant visas, and then now this time click on login. So once you click on login, it gives you, if this is the first time that you're using, it will give you the option of a new user. Now this is different from the old CGI portal, which just got updated, and now it's with a different vendor. And these are a few changes that they've made. However, if you've already applied for a visa in the past, you can port all your details from the old website or old CGI to the new one. So when you create your username and your new password, confirm the password, there'll be a verification code which goes to your email. Once you complete that verification, then this portal allows you to start filling your application. The most important thing on this portal is that there are 3 security questions. So make sure that you take a screenshot or note them down very carefully, because if you lose one of these security questions and the answers, there is no way you can retrieve it. There's a whole lot of new process that you have to go to. You have to go to the BFS office, request them, start writing emails to them to retrieve that one. You can retrieve your password, you can retrieve your username, but if you misplace or forget your security question and the answers, it is extremely difficult to retrieve them. So make sure that you are writing them down or taking your screenshots or keeping them safely. Please, please, please make sure of doing that. Once you complete that, then you have to provide certain details. Once again, you're applying for a non-immigrant visa, and your visa category is going to be student and academic, and it's called the F1. Student has 3 different visa categories: F1, N1, and J1. Most popularly, people, those who are going for their undergrad or their masters or their PhD would be applying for an F1. M1 is for vocational, J1 is of course for exchange student and scholars. So your category, if you're applying for a student visa, if you have an I-20, you're going for an F1. So once you complete your details on the system, then you have to pay the visa application fees, which is as of now $185, which is equivalent to about 15,440 rupees in Indian rupees. Now the system allows you to do a UPI, pay through your credit card or your debit card, or you could go to the nearest bank, which is the Citibank, and you can pay it through cash, or you can do your NEFT. So now because it's easier, the UPI or the debit card, it's easier. And as soon as you pay the visa application fees, it gets updated. Earlier, it used to take about more than 24 hours for the updation, but now it gets updated. Once that is, the receipt is activated, it then allows you to schedule appointment. Now, if you remember, we start filling our DS-160, the application form, and probably you selected a location, let's say Delhi. However, when you're looking for visa appointments, and if you're not able to book an appointment in your consular district, the system allows you to choose a different location. So please don't worry that it doesn't have to be in sync. If it's in sync, fantastic. If not, you can have two different locations. Your DS-160 could have a New Delhi address, and your appointment could be in Mumbai or Chennai or Calcutta. All right. So you have to first choose your fingerprint date, which is called the OFC date. Once you choose the location, and it shows you the date, and it also gives you the time. So once you select those date and time, then it takes you to another screen, another calendar would open up, which is called the counselor appointment, the visa interview, the VI. It has to be at least a minimum of 24 hours apart. It cannot be on one single day. So for example, if you book your VAC on November 1st, right, then your counselor appointment has to be after that. It cannot be on a given day. It can be, the difference between these two could be even, could be less than 1 year. All right, you can have back-to-back, or you can have after a week, you can have after a month. That makes no difference. It doesn't have to be close, but it is better to have them as close as possible because it reduces your time and again going back and forth. So once when you've taken both the appointments, it's called the VAC appointment, the OFC, and the counselor appointment. And it is always good to be at least 30 minutes or half an hour before the interview and take your fingerprinting. Now, however, a lot of students also have a lot of questions about what happens at the VAC. Is there a document submission? No, there is no document submission. It is only document verification, which is only your passport, your visa appointment letter, your DS-160 confirmation page, your I-20, and your SEVIS fee receipt. I'm going to talk about the SEVIS fee receipt right after this presentation or within this presentation. So you just have to carry these 5 documents when you're going for your VAC interview. They'll take your fingerprinting and click a photograph there. You don't have to click a photograph and carry with you. There's no requirement for that, unless you qualify for an interview waiver. But if you're going for a VAC interview and if you're going for your consular interview, you do not have to carry your photograph. They'll click it over there. Now, what are the documents which are required for your visa interview? Because you're going in for your education, so all your education documents, your financial papers, and your work-related documents. So when I talk about education documents, what are those documents? For example, if somebody is completed his class 12 and going for an undergrad, so he would be carrying the school certificates like the 10th and the 12th and the mark sheets. And if they've taken a SAT, then carry the SAT scores and the TOEFL or the IELTS scores. If you do not have a hard copy, you can just go on to their website where there is a soft copy, take a screenshot and take a print of that. It doesn't have to be a color printout. It can be a printout. That's it. All right. So financial papers. Now these financial papers are going to be from your parents, not your parents. All right. So carry the bank statement for the last 6 months, and then proof of investment like fixed deposit, shares, bonds, mutual funds, insurance policies, post office account, whatever, whichever says funds. You can just take printout of those and carry for your visa interview. That shows that there's availability of funds. Income tax returns for the last 3 years. And then, of course, the property papers, which could be your residential, your commercial, your ancestral. Take copies of that. Now, a lot of students also ask for whether we have to get the evaluation done or whether we should have a CA report. It is not required. I understand that, when you're going online, when you're checking various websites and the YouTube channels, which are so prevalent now, they all would say that carry a CA statement. It is not required. It is not a US Embassy requirement. It is just that you want to carry it or somebody started off with that. The other thing is, what about if I've taken an education loan? Yes, along with this, you must carry your education loan documents, because education loan document alone will not qualify or will not suffice, because the law says you have to show financial ties to your home country. What are your parents doing? What is the annual income? What is the total savings and investments, right? Do they own properties here? The loan document only proves that there is availability of funds, not the stability of the financial situation of the family in India. So make sure that you carry all the financial papers when going in for the visa interview. If you've been working, let's say that you're going for masters, you have to carry your course completion certificate, your degree. If you haven't received your degree, then probably a provisional degree, right? Or a bona fide student and your mark sheets from the college. So you need to carry if you're going for your masters. And if you've been working, then your joining letter and your salary slips for the last 3 months. If you have worked at different places, let's say you have 3 jobs. So the first job would have a relieving letter. You can carry that. The second would also have a relieving letter. The third one would have a joining letter and your salary slips. All right. Not that if somebody is working, has to resign to take a relieving letter. It's not required. A relieving letter is not required if you're currently working. So don't go and resign. So anyone who's applying for masters would have his degree, his mark sheet, 7-semester mark sheets, right? If not, then his provisional degree or his course completion certificate, 6-semester mark sheet, and a bona fide student letter from the university. If a person who's been working, then his joining letter, salary slips would be good enough. SEVIS. Now, if you remember, right in the beginning, we spoke about the I-20, and the I-20 had Department of Homeland Security, and then the USCIS, and then the SEVIS. Now, the SEVIS fees goes to the Department of Homeland Security, so which is $350, and you have to go, and it's an online process. Once you complete the form, it gives you the link to pay the visa application fees. It can only be paid through a credit card. The debit cards don't work. There is no UPI. And please, please, please don't make a mistake of saying that I'm going to send it through Western Union. The Western Union doesn't work in India to remit the funds outside India. It's to receive the money. So make sure that you have a credit card, and through that you can pay the SEVIS fees, which is $350. The website is fmjfee.com. You remember I said there are 3 visa categories for F1, which is students, M1 for vocational studies, J1 for students, those are going for an exchange program. So these are 3 different components for student visas. So that's the reason it says fmjfee.com. So as soon as you pay the SEVIS fees, you get an online receipt. You can take a print of that. That's good enough. You don't need to have an original which comes through mail. This is good enough. All right. For the website, it's fmjfee.com. You are paying for I-901 fees. So click on that. For that, you need your passport, your I-20, and your credit card. Once you complete your details, the SEVIS number, which I told you is mentioned on your I-20, and always make sure that whatever forms you're filling, either it is your I-20 or your DS-160 or your I-901, which is the SEVIS fees, it should match up with your passport. So make sure that your passport, your I-20, your SEVIS, your DS-160 all match up. Okay. So once you complete that, make sure again to collect these documents, take a print, and the documents required in order to pay the SEVIS fees, the I-901 is going to be your passport details, your I-20 details, your home address in India. So when you're filling your I-901, it says address, and it'll by default give you a US address. So choose the country to India, then it gives you access to mention your address over there. Your school details will be mentioned in your I-20 because it's going to ask you about your school code. It is already mentioned on your I-20. The school zip code and your school code, your zip code or your PIN code is the same. The school code would be different. And then, of course, your credit card details. As soon as you pay that, you get this receipt. So take a print of this, and this printout is good enough. Because in the end, the SEVIS would ask you if you want an expedited delivery, wherein you have to pay $35 extra, which is not required. Unless you want to pay, you can pay it, but it is not required. You can just carry the online receipt, which is good enough. So now that we are ready with all the documents, and when I'm going in for my visa interview, it is very important that you understand how you carry your documents. Because at the interview, you only have about 2 to 3 minutes. If you know where your documents are, it gets easier for you to hand over it to the visa officer. So I always recommend that try and make sets rather than, carrying those fancy files. Just have those binder clips and just put them in sets. Set 1, essential, which is going to be your passport, your visa appointment confirmation page, your I-20, your DS-160, and your SEVIS fee receipt. Only those documents required for your fingerprinting. When you're going for your fingerprinting, they'll check those documents. They'll put a check mark whether they have found any mistake or not, and they'll stamp it and give it back to you. So when you're going in for your visa interview, make sure that you carry these documents. Set 1. Set 2 is going to be all your education documents, which includes your degree, your school certificates, your SAT, GRE, GMAT, TOEFL, IELTS score. Just take a bunch and put it in a binder clip. Set 3, if you've been working, then all your work-related document, which, like I said, is going to be your joining letter, your offer letter, your salary slip, your resignation letters. Set 4, all your financial papers from you and from your family. Who all can be your sponsors? Self, your parents, your grandparents, your siblings. You can carry financial paper for all of them, right? So which includes your bank statements, your family's bank statements. Proof of income is going to be your income tax returns, the fixed deposits, PF, GPF, shares, bonds, mutual funds. Carry all of those documents to show that your family is financially stable here. Copies of property papers, even if it's in regional language, you don't have to get a translation done. Then, of course, if you apply to more than one university, make sure that you carry all the admission offers. Even the rejection offers are good enough to carry. Then set 6 is going to be all about your miscellaneous documents. Whatever you want to carry, your certificates. If you've done certain certifications, that's all. You can carry all of those. Now, when we talk about interviews, US visa is based on interview, and any interview is subjective. What you say and what the officer could understand could be two different things. So make sure that you understand what is the visa law and frame your answers according to that. It becomes very easy for the officer to understand that what you're telling him, not what you want to tell him, So you have to have a mix of both the things, what you want to tell him and what does the visa law says. There's a very, very definite structure of answering your answers. We talk about all of that as well. So when we talk about the visa law, it says that any student who's applying for a visa, the officer must consider him as a potential immigrant and not issue a visa until proven otherwise. So you have to show your intentions not only to go to the US, but also to return back, because the presumption of the law says if you go to the US, you'll not come back. In order to show your ties to your home country, you can only talk about your social ties, your family's financial ties, and most importantly, your professional goal. That is the key to qualify for your visa interview, your professional goals. And your reason to go to the US should be in sync with your professional goals in India. If you understand the journey, then it becomes easier for not only you to communicate to the officer your reasons of going there, but also providing him information and your intent to return back to your home country, which is the key in order to get your visa interview or to qualify for a visa interview. Once you get your visa approved, the visa officer tells you right there during the interview that your visa is approved. And then he'll keep your passport. And then after a couple of days, you'll get a message from the VFS office that your passport has been collected and now it's ready for delivery. If you've chosen the option for a premium delivery, it comes to your house. If you've chosen a pickup, then you have to go and get your passport picked up from the VFS center. Make sure that your name, your date of birth, your passport number, your college details are absolutely correct. If it's not, then you can go back to the VFS office and hand them over, and then they'll make the correction and then they'll deliver it to you. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now ask Yashika to take over, explain about what is Zolve about, because I really, really appreciate what Zolve is doing, because my journey ends here and your journey begins from here, because when you're going to the US, you've got to understand how to open a bank account, what are the things which goes into it. You want to communicate to your parents as soon as you reach there. So Zolve takes over from there and solves your problem in that sense. So Yashika, please take over, and then after this we'll take those FAQs, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I'll just wait for Gopal to present. All right, so hi again, everyone. I'm Yashika, and I'm sure you all had a very informative session until now. Before we go ahead with the Q&A, I would like to take a minute to introduce Zolve to all of you. Like Sir said, Zolve is a US-based neobank. It's headquartered in the New York, and we are very happy to share with you that we have 100K plus active and happy Zolve users at this point. The entire goal of Zolve is to help you have a smooth transition from India to the US. Now, I'd like to introduce some products that we have. Under Zolve Banking, we have US bank accounts. Then we have US credit cards. We have a money transfer facility wherein you can seamlessly transfer money from India to the US. On the other hand, we have a Zolve portal wherein we have visa assistance. I'll elaborate more on visa assistance after a minute. Then we have student loans, we have foreign exchange, we have scholarships, and we also have a US SIM card. Now, coming to visa assistance, recently Zolve has taken up an initiative to help all of you have a very seamless visa journey. We understand there are so many steps, there are so many processes, and there is so much information out there that a student can get confused. So our entire goal is to make it extremely easy for you and have a one-stop solution for anything that you might need. So for the same, we're also launching things like DS 160 assistance, mock interviews, a series of informative webinars like the one you attended today. And I want to elaborate more on the webinar side. So we have an upcoming webinar, which is basically mock interviews. For the same, can you go to the next slide? I want you all to take a minute and register on the Zolve website right now. We'll post the link in the chat box itself. So to register on the Zolve website, all you have to do is answer some basic questions, confirm your email ID and your phone number, and make sure that you use this referral code because we have an offer running right now. So all of you who are attending the event, attending the webinar today, you will all get a very you'll get a lucky chance to get a free mock interview, which will be a webinar very soon in the future. And for the same, I want you to use this referral code webinar underscore 211023, which is basically today's date. And that way we can see who all attended the event today and we can let you know about who is the lucky winner. And that way you will get a free webinar. It'll just take 3 minutes. So we've dropped the link in the chat box. Please try to register on the website and use the referral code. Do let us know if there are any doubts. We'll wait for a couple of minutes.
I think, Ashika, there is one question on can you elaborate the service? So can you please give a context again of all the Zolve's facilities which we are providing?
All right, so I would like to explain the Zolve facilities again. So for Zolve, we have visa assistance, then we have student loans, we have foreign exchange, we have scholarships for you people, and we also have US SIM card. For visa assistance, what all we provide under visa assistance is DS 160 filling assistance, then preparing you for mock interviews, and a lot of webinars, which will not just be related to general F1 visa journey, but also have specific topics like what all do you need to keep in mind before filling your TS 160, or let's say what all you need to keep in mind while preparing for your visa interview, what to say, what not to say, what all documents are required, what all things do you need to keep in mind for your pre-departure planning, how do you need to plan your life out in the US. We'll try to cover as many topics as we can so that you have a very smooth transition.
Also, there is one question on the scholarships for Spring 2024. So yes, there will be scholarships on Spring 2024 students. We'll be launching them on November 1st. So do sign up on Zolve and you will get to know about the scholarship from that platform.
Guys, as and when you're done signing up on the Zolve platform, please let us know in the chat box so that we can proceed with the Q&A.
Yashika, can you repeat the offer? I think one user is asking what is the offer?
All right. So the special offer that we have today is we'll be conducting a webinar on mock interviews. And for that, we need 3 lucky winners who will be a part of the mock interview. Like you will be having a mock interview for free, which will be presented in the form of a webinar. So by signing up on Zolve website and using the referral code webinar_211023, which is today's date, you get a chance to be eligible for that offer. Please let me know if this is still not clear. I'll explain again.
Yep, just to add to this webinar, mock interview webinar will be conducted by Sanjay sir. So he'll be picking 3 candidates from the audience. So those 3 candidates we can choose from the people who will be registering today on the site.
So the next webinar is going to be all about how to handle the interview, what are the possible questions the officer might ask, how to answer those questions. So that's going to be really, really informative because, getting your I-20 and completing your visa form is one aspect. But when you're going for the visa interview, what is the officer's mindset? Why is he asking a particular question? What is behind it? So there's a lot of myth, there's a lot of misinformation which goes on that, the officer only asked me 1 question, 2 questions, and, he made up his mind, what are they doing? I'm going to bust all those myths because there is a very, very clear understanding of how to frame an answer, the sequence. So I would really, really recommend because, when I give an answer or when I suggest an answer, the answer is coming after 37 years of experience and handling probably more than, I guess, 40 to 50,000 students across India and Southeast Asia. So I would really, really encourage a lot of students to come on board to benefit out of it. Honestly, it's going to be really, because it really excites me when I talk to students, when I give those answers, and I can see those students lighten up because they have so much of information which they believe is right. But when I give them a simple solution to that, it lightens up and the burden goes off, the stress is off. Trust me. I've been experiencing this for now almost 25 years, that how things lighten up.
Yep, that is correct. We have heard really good feedback from the students on the mock interview and the DSN webinars by Sanjay sir. That is the reason why we keep reaching out to Sanjay sir again and again for the webinars. We have heard really positive feedbacks.
I mean, it excites me because the whole idea is that, I understand the students and the entire family is under so much of stress because there's so much of already put in so much of effort. So now the interview is the one that they have to cross. And that's where the excitement goes.
That is right. Yep.
Super.
A few questions.
Go ahead.
I think a couple of students have mentioned, asked some questions. So one student has asked that he is not able to sign up using the link. So once you click on the link, you can see a get started button at the top right end. So you can click on that and you can sign up through that. In case you are still facing issues or anything, you can please mail us your issues at hello@zolve.com and we'll be happy to take that up. Other person has asked that what should be my country. So the citizenship country should be filled as India, and the country from where you're applying, country of residence, should be, again, if you are in India, it should be marked as India right now. The one person has asked again that how do I redeem this code? So as Yashika explained, this code is basically will be used to pick the 3 lucky winners. Whoever registers today and tomorrow, we'll be picking 3 winners from those, and we will be from those three people will be used will have the opportunity to do a mock session with Sanjay Kaushik sir in our upcoming webinar. There are couple of other questions which we have received. This is all regarding visa assistance. In case you are facing any questions regarding, if you have any questions regarding Zolve services or anything regarding Zolve, do let us know at hello@zolve.com. We'll be happy to assist you. In case you are facing any questions with OTP as well, do reach out there. So over to you, Yashika, on this.
All right, I think we can start with the Q&A round then.
Right.
All right. So, Sanjay sir, I had circulated a Google form and we have some questions. First, we'll address those and then we'll see the
Sure.
chat box.
Sure.
So, Arunita here wants to ask how to crack the interview. Please give some tips, sir.
How to crack the interview?
Yeah.
Well, that's a complete presentation. That's going to take a lot of time. But in order to crack the interview, very simple thing is that, you need to understand that why you want to go and study in the US. You have to have a very clear vision in terms of the reason to go there, right? So I keep telling everyone there are 2 kinds of students applying for visas. One, those who want to go to the US, and one, those who want to go and study in the US. There's a huge difference between these two. So you need to understand your skill sets, which would get enhanced by studying in America, and what is your career objective and goals, and how will this all sink in together to progress in your career eventually. So your choice of college, it should also be based on the course content and curriculum. So your focus should be course content, the curriculum, the skill sets, and the career objectives, and what kind of companies that you want to come back and work for. For this, I would really, really recommend that, if you sign up for the next webinar, I'm going to talk about all of these questions. What are the questions? What are the possible answers? How to frame answers? What is the sequence of the answers? Honestly, it's going to be really, really, interesting and exciting to understand how easily we can actually crack the interview. So I would recommend, Yashika, if you could have that in the next session.
Sure,
Thanks.
sir. All right. So the next question is by Aman. So he says that when adding information while booking visa slot, you were asked for your SEVIS number and I-20 information. However, if I want to change to another I-20, can the information be changed or not?
Okay. The simple answer is no. You can't change it. However, you have to. Let's say that you started your application and you booked your appointment and paid the fees and booked your appointment and paid the service, everything for, let's say, a university, which is for the sake of understanding, Arizona State University. However, before you go in for your visa interview, let's say that you get a university which is better than that, let's say NJIT, for example. And now, what is the process? Fill a new DS-160 with the information of NJIT, get your SEVIS transferred from Arizona State. There's a process. If you go onto the fmjfee.com, there's a process and a link which says transfer my SEVIS fees. So over there, you've got to give your details of your old SEVIS number and ask them to transfer it to the new SEVIS number. And it takes about 24 hours for them to do that, and you get a receipt for that. So now you have a new I-20, a new DS-160, and your transferred SEVIS fee receipt. Now, when you go in for your visa interview, because on your CGI portal, you can't make any changes, but that's okay. Don't worry. It is absolutely acceptable. You go in for your fingerprinting, you explain it to them, they'll accept your application and they'll move forward. It is an understanding, and we've been doing this now for years, so do not worry. Just fill your new DS-160, get your SEVIS transferred, and go in for your visa interview with the new one. I guess that answers the question.
All right, sir. And now there's another question about by Muhammad Adnan, that what are the major tips for refused students? And he's given a case wherein it says that will there be any impact on his profile if he changes his university and course? And the example he's given is MBA to MS in accounting.
Okay. Now, once again, this becomes very, very specific. However, if the choice of university is better than the last university, you have a good chance. If you're going to a university which is equal or lower ranked, then you are losing on your chances, right? So let's say that you're going to a university and you applied and you could not get through, and then you waited for the next session or the semester to start with, and you got a better university. That's okay to go with that. Now, your next question is, if you're changing a stream, there has to be a logic behind it. Why are you changing this? Right? Because your last application, like I said, when you complete your DS-160, your application, it stays in the system for 99 years. All right? So everything has to be logical. And I've helped students, those are changing stream, going from A to B stream, and I've helped, let's say there's a doctor who's a dentist and going for an MBA finance. There's no connection. But there is, again, a huge connection between these two, if you look at logically. So Adnan, I don't think so it should impact you, provided you have a better university this time. And B, when you're framing your answers, it should be logically framed that now why are you changing your stream? I've handled hundreds of these kind of cases. And trust me, if you have a logical answer, the officer is more than happy to issue a visa to you. Again, I need to get into more specifics because it's not like that's the reason, we do one-on-one sessions. It's not like a blanket answer. I'm sorry, Anand, but I mean, if fill this form, I really wish that you become the lucky winner for the next one, and we could discuss it for the next session.
Yes, I think that answers Adnan's question. So we have Kartikeya who has asked that I am EC background and I applied for CS. I've done a lot of certifications on programming languages and computer services. While my interview is going on, can I say that I have done certifications on CS? That's why I'm interested in CS.
Now, also understand one thing, that a lot of students come and ask me like, I've done CS, but I'm going for EC or vice versa, or, different field. So the point is, again, if you can create a logical progression towards it, and it is always good to have multiple skills that, yes, sir, I did my bachelor's in computer science, but now that I want to go into, let's say, artificial intelligence or let's say cybersecurity or specialize in that, because I would want to come back and work for these companies. So my software skills are good, but how do I create layers in it? So if you can provide a virtual kind of a solution to the officer that this I can solve, but in order to have a better understanding, to create better firewalls and to make better software or take more precautions for data breach, then the cybersecurity program would be, wonderful for me. Or let's say somebody wants to go and do, after the CS, he wants to go and do a management program and he wants to get into logistics. Or let's say somebody is doing electronics and communication but wants to get into software. So let's say that you want to come back and work for LG, who wants to build smart television. So your EC would help you understand that, and your software skill would enable you to understand what are the best softwares for a particular program. So create that kind of an understanding that you're not changing your stream, but you're multiplying your skill sets for a better career growth. So that should be your answer. Thanks.
All right. So next up we have Divya, and she has presented a case here. My brother went to the US 4 years ago for doing masters. Now he's been doing a job since the last 2 years, and he's on H-1B visa. What is the perfect answer that I can explain to my visa officer that I will not be staying like my brother on H-1B visa and I will return back to India after completing my masters?
Okay. Look, I understand, there are a lot of apprehension, there's a lot of misinformation or information on the digital platform about these kind of questions. But please understand, whether a person is on H1, you, I, or the person cannot file an H1 for themselves. It has to be the company, right? And the company has to go through a rigorous process to file for an H1 to prove to the government, especially to the Labor Department, that they could not find a perfect fit. So the answer is that yes, my brother went there. He completed his studies there. He was on his OPT. He was on a project, and he was bringing a lot of value to that project. And the company wanted him to stay on to complete that project. However, my idea is that I want to go study and get the kind of skill sets, because India currently is really growing. There are a lot of companies over here. The growth options over here are phenomenal. And in fact, my brother who came last year is also looking for options in India once he completes his project there. So you are giving him intentions to return back, not only yours, but also your brother have his intentions to return back to his home country. So once again, when you start on with your first answer, why do you want to go to the US? That answer should always be built in with telling him what are your future plans in India. That's how you start the forming your or setting the interview or driving the interview in your favor. You provide those subtle information that what are your reasons of coming back. It should not be very obvious. They're very subtle. So that's the whole trick of handling the visa interview. So for you, the thing is that the company wanted him to stay on because he was putting in a lot of value. So once he completes his project, he also plans on returning back. Not that he will come back, he also plans on returning back. So my idea is go, do this, get the right kind of skill sets and come back. Okay, thanks.
All right, sir. Now we have another question by Mohammed. So he's saying that his surname is Mohammed, which is Mohammed, as per the passport. But as per education certificates, it's MOHT. So will it cause any issues for his interview or immigration?
Never. It is the visa officers here and the immigration officers in the US understands that on your education documents there could be MOHD, but your passport. So they are looking at your passport. They're looking at, for them the most important document is your passport, your I-20 and your visa. They all should be in sync. And even in the future, when you're applying for an OPT or when you're applying for an H1, MOHD or MOHA, MMED will not make any difference at all. And it's quite regular kind of a thing, because if you talk about, for example, Sanjay Kumar Kaushik, so Sanjay KR Kaushik, and my passport could be Sanjay Kaushik, but my documents could be KR. It makes no difference at all. At all.
All right. So the next question by Mohammed himself is that if changing university will impact our profile or not, but I believe you've already answered it, that it needs to be a better university. So we'll skip that. The next question we have is, I got an I-20 from University A and I booked my visa slot, but then I got I-20 from University B. What am I supposed to change and proceed? And if I want to proceed with University B?
Right. I gave the answer though. When the student had the same kind of a situation. So in this situation, just fill a new DS-160, and if you've already paid the SEVIS, transfer your SEVIS fees. On the CGI portal, you can't make any changes. However, when you go in for your visa, for your biometrics, inform them. They would inform the officer. It's okay. It's absolutely fine. It's not that you have to have the CGI portal updated because it doesn't allow you anymore. So just fill a new DS-160. If you paid the SEVIS, get your SEVIS fee transferred. Carry those documents. That's good enough. You don't have to worry about it at all.
All right. So, what does an immigration officer look at when they're looking at an applicant? How do I present myself? This is a question by Sanit Reddy.
Okay. Once again, like I said right in the beginning, so for me, immigration officer is different and a visa officer is different. For me, immigration officer is that you've gotten a visa and now you're landing in the US. So there is an immigration officer there. However, I would answer both. So the visa officer is looking at, A, what is your intention? Why do you want to go and study in America? What are your career objectives? Do you understand how will that benefit you? How will you improve on your skill sets? So the officer's intention is not only that why will you come back, but also are you a legitimate student? If you believe that you're not a legitimate student, you will not even move forward. Now, how do you prove that you're a legitimate student? By showing your intent to study. When I say intent to study, which means that you must know the course content, you must know the curriculum, you must know what are the kind of skill sets that you're looking at. You are looking at a career objective. It is your career. What are the goals that you have looked for yourself? And are they all in sync with each other or not? So that's what the immigration or the visa officer is looking at here. When you go in for your visa, after your visa is approved, and you land up in the US, the immigration officer over there is looking at that, did you get the visa interview based on the information that you provided on your DS-160 and the notes that the visa officers mentioned on your application there. And then the visa only allows you to travel from India till the port of entry of US. Over there, the immigration officer has the right to look at your application once again and also see whether he would allow you to enter the US or not. So that's what Yashika was saying, that our series will not end only till how to get a visa, but also what the immigration officers are looking at the port of entry. what is the difference between the visa officers and immigration officer. All right. So keep, watching at different webinars that we'll be conducting. But for you now, they're looking at your intent to study and your intentions to return back to your home country for the visas. Thank you.
All right. So Vani wants to ask that she has a dependent visa already and she wants to get F1 visa. So should she apply for a new visa or change of status?
Okay, good question, because a lot of students, when I understand dependent, so I assume that either you're an F2 or an H4. I assume that it's going to be more of an H4. So if you're an H4 visa, it is always, or an F2. It is good to get your visa stamped on your passport and enter on that. The difference is, if you do a change of status in the US, then you're not eligible for an OPT, which is an integral part of the education system. OPT is the optional practical training, which gives you the ability or the the regulation to allow you to work in the US on an OPT. So to do a change of status, which is that you are in the US on an H4, you have an admit, and you request the immigration office in the US to do a change of status from an H4 to an F1. That's called a change of status. When you're outside the US, so there is no change of status. Over here, you have to apply for a new visa from an H4 to an F1. When you apply for an F1, all these things that we discussed would be taken into account, but your chances of getting an F1 visa would be much simpler. So I would suggest and recommend that get your F1 visa stamp and then enter as an individual, as an F1. That would be my suggestion. B.
All right. So we have Rollins who says that I have received a full scholarship to study in Ohio and I'm going for my second bachelor degree in nursing. I'm 27 years old and I'm also living with my partner and I'm not married. On the DS 160, I wrote my marital status as domestic partnership. Is there anything I need to prepare and possible questions that I should expect about my marriage and scholarship at the embassy?
Okay, so for definitely because this question is very open for me. I need more information. Now, when you say that you're living with somebody now, and you've studied in the US, so are you living in the US with somebody? What is the visa status of that person? What? So there are a lot of questions that goes behind it. So it would not be a very simple answer for me to provide over here at this point of time, Yashika. I need more details. Because
All
it's going
right. So,
to be quite an open one.
Rollins, you could just reach out to us on hello@zolve.com or anywhere, and we'll try to address this in the upcoming webinars. Then there are a lot of questions about change of courses, but Sanjay sir has already answered them. So there's another question, which is that I made a mistake on my DS 160 form, and the data has already been captured. How can I change it?
You can't. You just have to fill a new one. That's okay.
All right. And I received my F1 visa and passport a little late, which was after my orientation deadline of the university. So basically, now I have to take a deferred intake. Do I need to reapply for visa, or is it just enough if I update my I-20 for the next intake?
Okay. So once when you get the I-20, make sure that your I-20 is from the same university, and then the SEVIS number is the same. If these two things are in sync, then you don't need to get a new visa. However, I always tell everyone that once when you get your visa and once when you get your new I-20, if you could not travel on that, it is always good to write to the embassy and provide them this information that your visa got issued let's say for the fall session, and going to this university with this SEVIS number. But unfortunately, I received my passport and my visa late. Now that I've got a deferred admission going to the same university with the same SEVIS number. So I would be using this same visa to enter. Please suggest. The answer would become, the embassy would answer you saying that yes, you can use that visa. You must carry both those documents along with your passport, visa, and the old and the new I-20. And when you're going to the US, at the port of entry, the immigration officer, like I said, will ask similar questions. And when you have an email to show that you wrote to the embassy, and this is what they've answered, it gets eased out by the immigration officer also. So in fact, by doing this, you're helping the immigration officer to let you in easily. So I would suggest write an email to the embassy once you get your I-20. Thanks.
All right. So, Salma, you've asked for a list of documents required. I would say that please look out for further webinars. There are a lot of questions about ITR being mandatory or not. So there's someone who's asked that is it really important? Is it mandatory? So please give us some
Okay.
insight.
All right. So if you talk about the visa law, the law says that the student must show not only their intent to study there, but also their intent to return back. And you've got to show strong ties to your home country. I'm sure you've read this online, but nobody explains what does ties mean. Ties would mean your social ties, your family's financial ties. Now, if I look at an American mindset, for them, the annual income is really important. How do you prove your annual income? Right? So that's through an ITR. Now, also depending on what your parents are doing, what is their profession. If they are into farming, then you don't need an ITR, right? You just need to carry supporting documents that they're farmers, because according to the Government of India rule, farmers are exempted to pay taxes. However, if they're doing a job or if they have a business, then make sure that you carry the ITRs. Then it becomes important. Not mandatory, but important.
All right. So there's a case here. I have a single mother and I want to ask if it is possible for me to take her with me on F1 visa and her on a dependent visa.
Okay, so the answer is no. Now I'll explain you why. Because the law says that a student who's going on an F1 is allowed to take the dependent. Now the connotation of dependent is only his family, as in his spouse and kids. Parents would not come as dependents, unfortunately. Sorry. Thanks.
All right, sir. So I think there are a lot of questions, but I don't think we can address all of them right now. We'll be circulating a Google form link again with all of you. Just post them there, and then we'll try to analyze what are the major questions, and particularly conduct webinars directed towards that. And Kopal, do you want to add something here?
Yep. So I'll just send the Google form link on the chat. You can fill your questions there. And as we have more webinars coming up with Sanjay sir, plus we will be launching personalized services with Sanjay sir as well. So in those services, you can ask all the questions which you have, plus in the upcoming webinars. So I'll be circulating a link so that we can share the questions and we can see if there is any interesting topic which you guys all the people want to hear about. We can have webinars regarding those topics as well.
Great.
Yep.
Right. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that maybe we can take 1-2 last questions and then Yashika
Okay.
will be wrapped up the session.
All right.
All right, I'll just take a few more questions. This is also. So, can we book a visa slot without I-20? The reason is that my I-20 is under review and the slots are filling very fast.
Okay, good question here. Good question, because the visa slots. So right in the beginning, I said, if you look at your I-20, the I-20 is coming from Department of Homeland Security, the USCI and the USCIS. These are two major departments in the US, right? And then we fill out a visa form called DS-160. So DS is Department of State. So there are 3 government agencies working on it, right? So when I hear this thing saying that the visa slots are not going to be coming in, we will not get a visa slot. I mean, I get really, really surprised. Why? Because I ask students, what is the use of a computer? The computer is used because so the computers are used basically and primarily to ease out the entire process. And we're going to the US because the software or the industry over there or the education over there is good. But we somewhere miss out the point that, these are 3 US departments and this is a Department of State. I'm sure they are exchanging data. The number of I-20s being issued and the number of slots being released. If you look at the last session, which is the fall session, the highest number of visas was issued from India, which is 90,000. If 90,000 visas were issued, so there were slots. These were issued. There are also refusals, right? So they all went for the interview. So please don't worry. The slots would be available. So that's one thing, right? Because there are a lot of agents that say that, we can arrange all these kind of things, but the US Embassy is aware of the number of I-20s being issued and the number of slots. It is just that you have to be a little, don't get stressed out. Have patience. So that's one. The second thing is, on your DS-160, you have to mention the name of your university, the SEVIS number. On your CGI portal, you have to mention the name and the SEVIS number and the details of the I-20, right? So without an I-20, how can you fill the form? Either you have to have a fictitious I-20. I don't think so. That's a good idea. So wait. You'll get your slots. Take it easy. Thanks.
All right, so I think this will be the last question I take, which is, so I got refused my visa 2 times, and both the times I was going for the same university. So do you think I should change my university in the third attempt?
Like I've been giving information to all the other students, if the university is better ranked university, then most definitely. However, the refusal is not based on the university, right? And it is, and also a lot of people ask me like, should I go to Chennai, or Chennai is bad, or Hyderabad is good, Delhi is better? No, I tell everyone, the visa officers are trained in Washington according to visa law. They're not trained for Chennai. They're not trained for Hyderabad. Okay, the visa law remains the same. It's the way you go and answer the question. So you have to reflect on what answers you gave. What did that connotation mean, right? So I keep telling everyone, evaluate your answers. Look at your answers. What are you saying? The journey has to be clear. Your reason to go and study there. A lot of students go and say that I want to go and study in California because the weather is closer to India. Is that a good answer? I have chosen this university because it is extremely affordable. What does that mean? You're showing us that I'm compromising on quality of education and we don't have that kind of funds. So my financial ties are weak. My intentions are not to go and study. So understand what you say. And how many universities you applied to? Say I applied to 5 universities where in California or in New York only. So that shows that, hey, you have some intent in California itself. Maybe you have a relative there only. So a student, even in India, who's applying, who wants to be an engineer, would not only focus on NIIT, he would have like NIIT, Amity, IITs, and BITS Pilani, all of that. He'd have a mix. And then he would choose the best university out of that to which he gets an admit. So keep it very simple. Don't try and complicate it. Okay? Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Guys, I would still urge you all to sign up on the Zolve website. Secondly, we've posted our WhatsApp group link for all the further updates for all the webinars and any services that we have. And we've also posted the Google Form link because I could see that there were 40 plus questions in the chat box and there were some 15 plus questions in the Google Form. You all have a lot of questions and rightly so. So make sure that you all post them there. We will properly come back to you with a curated webinar for the same. Now, like I said, Zolve is actually committed to giving you all a very simple, smooth transition from India to the US. Thank you so much for your attention and your participation in the webinar. You've been a wonderful, amazing audience here. Thank you so much, Sanjay sir, for taking out the time and giving us insights on a Saturday and giving us all the tips and tricks that we need. Feel free to reach out to us and please look out for our thank you email. We'll be telling you all about some offers that exciting offers that Sanjay sir has, and you all should definitely go and avail. Kopal, do you want to add something?
No, that is it. Thanks a lot, Yashika, and thanks a lot, Sanjay sir. It was really helpful for all the students.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Zolve, for organizing such a wonderful event. I'm sure that this is going to be really, really beneficial for students. And I would also ask students if they have any specific topics, please write to Zolve. We'll try and like Yashika said, that we're going to curate those webinars for you, and also provide a feedback like what was your sense of the information that you received, and what are the other information that you would receive, so that we can keep improving on that. Even though I've been in this field for good 37 years, I like to improve so that we can keep giving the right kind of content to all the students, to provide them the right and seamless journey from start till end. So once again, thank you so much, and thank you, Zolve, and I hope to meet more students, and as they would be enrolling with you for the next session, which is going to be for the interview prep and
DS 160.
And the DS 160. Oh yes, absolutely. That's going to be a wonderful sessions. Thank you so much. Good night, and thank you, Zolve, and thank you, Yashika, and thank you so much for both of you. Thank you so much.